Hi everyone, I'm Tom. I'm Ops Director at McManus Pub. So we've got 18 sites, pretty much all across Northamptonshire, 2 down in Southend, Leigh-on-Sea, in Essex. We run a pretty eclectic mix of sites, some sort of wet-only boozers, some big sort of destination gastropub type venues, and everything in between. I directly manage 7 sites and then kind of oversee a lot of the rest of the estate. We're a kind of medium-sized family business. We've got a pretty lean central team. So although it's ops director, I tend to fill the role of commercial director, procurement director, and pretty much everything you can think of. So yeah, wearing many hats, and most recently head of data analysis. So yeah,
another hat.
Yeah, I'll try and do my best to tell you kind of what we're doing and just ask questions. We're at the beginning of, I think everyone's at the beginning of their journey on this, right? So can give you some insight into what we're doing and see if it helps.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for being here, Tom. I'm Christian, the co-founder and CEO of Tenzo. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Tenzo and then I'll ask Tom some questions. But please do ask questions as we go through. We want to make it an interactive session. One thing we get is this question. We're trying to figure out how to make AI work in our business. This is something we hear constantly from all of our customers, all of the prospects. It's just like, how do we actually make this work? So this is our answer today. And as Tom is saying, things are evolving very quickly. And so we'll talk to you a little bit about how we bring it all together. So what is Tenzo? Tenzo builds your data warehouse that brings in all of your data. So we aggregate all of your data from your POS, your labor, your inventory, your reviews, your reservations. So bring it all into one place. We normalize it, we organize it, we make it so understandable so that the LLMs, so things like Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT can understand that. We then add context to that. So that context might be, we only work with restaurants, so it's hospitality context. It will be your business context, so understanding what is your business, what is McManus. And then the location context, so like the GM's filling in an end of day report, for example, giving you the context of the location. And then you've really got the Tenzo mobile apps and alerts that your teams in the restaurants can use, can get the access to their data in real time, generate that. And then you can connect Tenzo to any LLM you have. So you can use the MCP, which is the connector, to really then go and ask any question. So what is an actual MCP? It's Model Context Protocol. It's the AI connector. You type a question into Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot. It connects to Tenzo, goes and gets all the elements it needs for your answer, and then an answer will come back with the details. Right? So you don't need to be like dragging and dropping things into your LLM. It's all just connected and it's got all the historical data and etc. So any questions on that? Cool. So Tom, before you had the Tenzo MCP, when you wanted to understand why a site was performing in a certain way, how would you go about it?
So we're a 56-year-old business, so my dad still runs it. My uncle, they're in their 60s. They run it off a massive Excel sheet that we fill in manually on a weekly basis, and it gives you tons of information, right? Like it's a big, huge file. Yeah, that like I've given it to a number of tech companies, and they're like, "What on earth is this?" And like, "How is it? Does it exist?" And it's sort of iterated over the last 30 years. But I think that since I've been in the business and kind of looking at that, like it's always felt a bit outdated. And when we started looking at Tenzo, the idea is that how can we get this Excel file out of Excel, automated, and into, I guess like Tenzo's a data lake, right? So into one source of truth platform. So we still use the flash report, but it's for kind of discussion with my dad and my uncle on a weekly basis more than anything else. It doesn't really show us much else because everything else is, well, at the moment, the sales and everything is coming through Tenzo. Everything else is not yet, but that's something we probably need to sort out. So essentially we were solving that problem through an Excel-based flash report, and then that will flag you a problem, as I'm sure anyone who's using a similar system, it will flag you a problem. The hard part is then like digging into why that is, and I think you'll always have a hypothesis or a gut feel, but that gut feel is quite often difficult to prove, or you spend a lot of time digging through till data and then trying to marry it up with your other data sources, and often that like friction and time just stopped the analysis from happening. I think particularly when you've got a time-poor central team, you kind of go, I think this is the problem, I'm going to solve it. I'm not going to search for the proof. I think what we're trying to do, what we're getting now from this is we're getting the proof up front.
What was that first question you wanted to ask it, or like, yeah, do you remember how did you ask that first question?
Yeah, so I started using ChatGPT, and then moved to Claude. Anyone who's not done that yet, suggest doing it. So I started doing it before the Tenzo MCP with things like creating standard operating procedures, things like we're trying to implement EOS, which if you haven't come across, it's just a way of working that sort of creates accountability, but a lot of it is like predicated on knowing your numbers. So a lot of the work we were doing on that, we were doing through Claude and through ChatGPT. So that gave me then sort of the confidence to then start digging into more and more data. So like, I don't know if I can remember like the first question, but it was looking at kind of a site. So I'd say that for one of the first bits of analysis I did, it was essentially asking like, why is this site underperforming? Can you help me look at day by day, hour by hour sales data combined with product sales for the last year, 6 weeks, whatever different time periods, and just keep asking questions. I think like the key, like never ask it to tell you something, right? Like come at it with a hypothesis, keep asking it to challenge and iterate.
Very cool. One thing we hear a lot of our customers say is there were questions that you would have liked to ask before, but you know, either because of the time or like just the complexity of it, you would never get, you wouldn't do it before this. Like other examples of things like that where you were like, oh, I wish I could have asked this, and now that has changed?
I don't know whether I can immediately think of any like exact questions, but because it's a conversation, because you're interrogating something or you're having it interrogate you, or whichever way round you are, inevitably the conversation leads to questions that you would never have asked about. And because it's so visual and so clear, you're able to see things that would have passed you by or would have been in a report you'd never pulled out or whatever it might be. So I think it's more that it's not that there was loads of burning questions that we couldn't answer, and ultimately like the data has always been there. There's no new data here. Like it's not that we couldn't have asked these questions or we couldn't have found the answers to them. Like we still can without this. It's just, do we have the time and sort of manpower to start doing that? So I think that I think it's more that like through following a process of constant questioning, you get to questions that you would have never asked before, and it helps you kind of really build up a good picture of things.
Well, what was it that surprised you? Was there anything unexpected, or was it?
No, like there were some things that we were doing that I think we were looking at sales as a single thing, for example, and we never broke down like, well, like, what is sales, right? Like sales is essentially like how many people are coming through the door and how much they're spending, and that might sound quite basic, but like until you actually sort of split those two metrics out from the sales metric, like that's just like the first layer of trying to understand why your sales are dropping or why they're growing, and what the problem is. And we probably weren't even going to that layer initially. So I suppose the surprising thing is just like how deep you can go like really quickly, and how I think on an hour train to London, like you can do a day's worth of work just by as long as the Wi-Fi works, which it never does. So yeah, but yeah, it's definitely the speed of which it pulls out, and I think the detail that it can glean, like the ability to build up a really clear profile of a pub or who its customers are, or just by taking the data that you've got in and understanding it and combining it with lots of things you've added in the past, like because I've been working in it and asking lots of questions and adding tons of data. I mean, it's got everything. It knows everything about the company. So because it's got all of that, like it can dive into such great detail, and the output is fantastic as well. Like in terms of the visual output, the graphs, the Excel files, the documents that you get out of it.
That's incredible. Right? What is there something that's changed operationally as a result of something that surfaced in the MCP from the questions you've asked, and that's had an impact operationally?
So I think and one that comes to mind is menu strategy. So we've got 5 sites that we've recently grouped into called destination, and like we've always been wet first. I would say like that food has never been what we've been best at, and it's improved over years. But like our process when it comes to creating menus or really understanding like what our food identity is has been questionable probably over time. And I think through analysing product sales, you can build up. So take these 5 destination pubs, right? Like you could quite easily say, these 5 pubs do 60% food, and their customers are pretty similar. We can put in a pretty similar menu set, or do the same menu across all of them. But when you start really breaking down the sales by site, and it kicks and getting it to tell you to almost like look, take my sales, analyze the like demographics of the surrounding area, like really work out who my customer is. And for example, there's a site we've got, countryside site, very pretty. We improved the food, like definitely. Reviews are good, but sales dropped, and we were kind of like, what's going wrong? And I think we solved a problem that wasn't there, right? We improved the food, but no one wanted improved food. People wanted ham, egg, and chips done well, and they wanted like good English pub food. And we probably made that a bit too strong. And although the reviews were good, what we lost was local trades and people who were going weekly or bi-weekly who don't leave you reviews, they just stop turning up. So I think by really kind of diving into that, we were able to create for this menu set, we're creating a bank of dishes for these 5 sites, but with a really clear brief on what each site specifically is. So it has its identity that runs through it. I think that change has really come out of this.
Very cool. Who uses it in the business? Is it like, head office? Is it the area managers? Yeah. I mean,
people, it's not, like I think if you think about like when Google came out, people still called 118 all the time, right? Like it took quite a while for people to work out that you can just ask Google and it sits in your pocket. I think that's probably where we are with things like this. Is the answer is there, but no one thinks to use that as first port of call. And so I think that is kind of that's where we're kind of where we're moving to. And in terms of getting that, I think a lot of the questions that people ask will work out that the answer is sitting there in this data, in Claude, in like the decisions that need to be made that can be made from what's there, but it's just not intuitive yet, I think is the main thing. Is like that won't work here, and this kind of helps us to get rid of that.
That's very cool. What one cool use case I've seen with area managers is prompting it to say, hey, tell me which pub should I go and see? I've got 6 pubs under my area.
Yeah.
Which one should I see when, and what should I tell them? So like I say, well, go Tuesday at lunchtime because you've got a low average spend, and then go Friday in the evening here because the spend per the cost of labor is too high, etc. So really helping the area managers understand where they want to go in each site, I think is a pretty compelling case. Tell me, what doesn't it do yet that you want it to do?
I think we just need more data in it, which is obviously music to your ears, Christian. But we, at the moment, we've got sales flowing in from Tenzo. Where it's going to be the most value is when you have, when it is one source of truth with everything flowing into there, right? Once at the moment, I'll screenshot a rota, upload that, get it to compare that with the hourly Tenzo data from the last 6 weeks, and get it to challenge the rota that's been built and where we might make savings or where it's understaffed or whatever. Once that's all intuitive, once that's all there, that becomes pretty easy.
Yep.
And then I think that's internal operations. I think that once you start them being able to cross-reference with lots of external sources, I imagine it gets 100 times more powerful than it is today. I think at the moment it's doing some cool things, but yeah, it's at the beginning for sure.
For other ops directors in the room thinking about this, what would you tell them? What would you tell them to ask first? How would you tell them to get started on the journey?
So I think probably is just take anything that you've got a gut feel for. For me, this is my dad's a big one for gut feel, and it always pissed me off. So it's oh, my gut feel is this manager won't work. It's well, I can't fire this person based on gut feel, right? Yeah. So for me, this gets rid of gut feel, or not doesn't get rid of it, but it proves it one way or another. It gives you the data to back up your gut. Your gut's going to tell you it for a reason, and but this gives you the reason. So I'd say start with something that you believe strongly. I believe this to be true 95%. This is my hypothesis, but I just don't know. I don't know how to show it. Start with something like that and get it to either prove it or challenge it, and sort of say this is say what you believe and get it to prove why that's not true or something like that. Whatever you do, don't ask it to show you or tell you. You have to get it to challenge. It has to be a thought partner. You have to get it to work through things with you. There's a really good book I read last year on sort of AI as a thought partner, and I think that is the key. If you just get it to show you stuff and tell you bits that you're not going to get any value out of it. And actually, this was a big problem with ChatGPT compared to Claude. Chat is a yes man. It will tell you exactly what you want to hear, and then you can challenge it, and it will go, oh, you're right. Whereas with Claude, it will actively it will challenge you. It will really work as a thought partner in a much stronger way. So I would say you've got to think of it like that. Start with a hypothesis, start with a theory, and get it to give you some information, and then challenge it back and see where you get to.
Awesome. Any questions?
How do you try and kind of figure that issue out when things are correlated but not necessarily causing the other? And then, with your experience so far, how much alignment has there been from gut feel to data? Does the gut normally get it right? And I guess when hasn't it, to your most surprisement?
On the first one, I'd say you can challenge it on that, right? Ask it that as Tom was saying, really using it as a thought partner and not just assuming it's going to be right, and just asking it, is this correlation? What's the causation here? And going through that, I would say on that front.
Yeah, I think gut feel is there for a reason, right? I think gut feel is usually right. But and I think there's an example of the example of having to just sort of change the menu bits. Like a lot of that is gut feels. I think it feels like although the metrics seem to be right, there's something off, and I think it might be this. I think that I think usually the data will prove it, but it's a much more compelling case. You can get people on board a lot quicker and easier if you can give them the data behind it. It's very difficult for people to push back when it's there in black and white.
We've got a couple of team members who are really anti-AI, quite scared of it, moral reasons, etc. What would be your approach for kind of getting them to buy into it? Or should we get them to buy into it? Should we just say, okay, if that's your point of view, we're going to leave you out of this project?
Yeah, we talk a lot about winning the hearts and minds with people, and I think that's a totally normal reaction. We get that across all teams. You will have that spread. I think a lot of it is around showing them how it can add. We had Chris from JKS the other day come to do a talk, and he had a really interesting way of winning hearts and minds. He told the team, bring me the 3 things you hate doing the most at work, and we're going to go and like figure out how to I automate them or figure out how AI can help. And that just really got them to buy into it, honestly. So I think that's probably a good way of approaching it. Go ahead.
How do you get over, I guess this is a question for you, like, how do you get over the fear that you're putting your data into a system that other people might then have access to?
See, I've never had that fear. Like I was actually thinking about this question on the way down, weirdly. I think probably it's just like I'm quite blasé by nature, and it's not something I've worried about. Like, and I don't feel like the data I'm putting in, it will be obsolete before it's interesting. Like I don't see who's gonna gain much from what I'm putting in there. So it's not something I've particularly worried about.
Have you used it to do like any competitor analysis or things like that?
Yeah. I mean there's only so much. I think I've used it to do like TripAdvisor, Google scrapes, and things like that. And first off, it was quite poor, but it's improved. Again, I wouldn't use chat for that. I think that's definitely a Tenzo job, a Claude job. Yeah, I think, and again, it's like start with a theory or start with a real kind of question that you're trying to solve, and then work with it. I always find that prompting sort of interview me one question at a time is a great way to go of trying to make sure that it's doing the right thing.
Just in terms of from a permission framework, when you add a user to Tenzo, you can decide whether they see just one of your sites, a handful of your sites, or all of your sites, so that when they connect into Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, then they will only be able to like get access to that subset of data. Any other questions? Cool. Great. Thank you so much, Tom.
All right.